Well into chapter 4 at this point. Make sure you're keeping up with the flow here. And I've posted online an article titled "Supervisors' Do's and Don'ts" on Blackboard. It's an old article, but when I read through it, I liked it. And just to make sure that I wasn't missing something, okay, I went back to the author. It actually came out of the Associated General Contractors Association and asked for a legal review of the same. She came back with the statement that looks good to her, still very clear what the supervisor should and shouldn't do. So read through it. I want you to understand it for two reasons. Okay? What do you suppose you need to understand excellence in behavior of a superintendent for? Why do you, there's two big reasons why you need to understand that. Can anyone suggest what those might be? Why do you need to know what constitutes excellence in supervisor behavior? Who are you managing? Are you going to manage supervisors? Well, if you're a project manager, that's your job, isn't it? Okay? So you need to be able to recognize that when it's excellent, or when there may be gaps between what's going on and what should be going on. Both to what? For what two reasons? Yes?
If they hold their guys accountable, not but just, yeah, we'll get on it, but actually tracking the work all the way through.
Sure. Make sure it's actually happening, right? If it isn't, to close that gap. Sit down, talk about it, decide on how we're going to fix that, right? But there's another, even more important reason. That's so you can appreciate it when it is happening and compliment them. Remember, your job is not just to promote yourself, it's to promote those underneath you. When you see excellence in behavior, you need to pay attention. That means you've got to understand what constitutes excellence, right? So you can honestly, I mean, we're not talking flattery here, we're talking honest, sincere appreciation for excellence. Okay? And blotting that in circles where you will be involved in selecting superintendents and giving out bonuses and doing whatever benefits will accrue from that. In selecting the next superintendent you want on your job, right? So pay attention to what others need to do besides yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to talk a bit about human behavior. And in order to introduce that, I really want to immerse you in the human factors of this thing, okay? They're very strongly held feelings that are involved, and I thought this was an excellent representation of that. That's interesting. Now, I do it manually.
Sounds great.
Well, look, here's this camera, but then that camera's blocking him.
It's not live right now?
Yeah, it's from his dock camera. No, it's not. Oh, no, wait. Oh,
He's not wearing this shirt.
you're right.
There you go. It's a...
Oh, it's a movie.
there was an airline that allowed you in time.
Okay, there is another one. I'll follow up on this one. I want to figure out.
Ballots tabulated for the O.T. Henley Company against the Union, 373. Count for the Union, 429. Well? So, what are you going to do now?
Live.
Yeah.
What else?
I think we should watch the movie.
Okay, so lots of things that we can talk about in that one. First of all, who is conducting that that vote? Who's in charge of doing the vote, making sure that it's done appropriately? Yes, exactly. National Labor Relations Board. Well, that's not the union. They come in and you see why they have to do it, right? It's not going to be done by the union. It can't be done by the company. It has to be done by an independent agency. Okay, or it's not going to happen. Okay. Now keep in mind that most of these people, well, not all, most of these people have very little in the way of this world's goods, don't they? So the things they're fighting for are very much what constitutes life to them. So you got to keep that in mind. These are very, very strongly held feelings about what's fair, what's just, and what may not be just in the conditions that they face. They may have very few options or feel they have very few options. Any comments about that or recognition of that? Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, one thing you need to understand is that there's lots of information that you need to know where to go to get answers and be able to deal with this sort of issue when you're managing the process, the situations in your own company. An excellent source of information about both sides, union and non-union, is available from the Associated General Contractors. Has anyone been to an AGC meeting or anything like that? Okay, well, you need to do that. You need to take the opportunity to go on their website, take a look at the vast resources that are available to you. When AGC meetings are available in your area, you need to attend those meetings, okay? My partner, the older gentleman I went into partnership with, very well-respected contractor in and around the Western States area, was a former president of AGC. The president of the local chapters are normally contractors, contractor owners, managers, okay? So these people represent well your needs. So get affiliated or get at least knowledgeable about who these people are and what the needs are and how they both provide a lot of training, a lot of information, as well as a lot of political, most of the reason why we were members and paid the fees to be members was because of the political connection that we had through that organization that we could never achieve on our own. Someone in Washington singing the song that we thought needed to be sung. Okay? So this is the advantage that you get from some of these industry organizations. So get familiar with them. Okay. In this supervisor's manual on labor relations, this actually came from a larger manual, a labor relations manual, again by the AGC. It states a supervisor has a legal right and a job responsibility, if so instructed, to actively campaign against any union seeking to represent the company's employees and should be expected to do so within the law. And we'll talk a little bit about how, what's within the law and what isn't. But I want you to think about that to begin with in terms of a potential conflict of interest. Where do our supervisors come from? We've got a superintendent, for example. What did he used to be before he was a superintendent? Yeah, if you go back far enough, he's a tradesman, right? Okay, he was probably a general foreman before that. Before that, he was a foreman, right? And then he was a tradesperson, right? So he has a lot of probable affiliation with the very people now that we're expecting by this statement, okay, to represent the company instead of the employee. Does that make sense? Okay, so you need to understand that within his mind, he may be conflicted, and legitimately so. Okay? All right, so what does it mean to have a union? Well, it means a company has to deal with the employees as a group, has to have consistent written policies, can't have favoritism, that the labor management relations are by a third party, i.e. not the employee himself, not the company, but a representative of employees that we call the union. There may be some loss of loyalty. That is, the loyalty may be to the union as opposed to the company. Okay, now to kind of illustrate that in the midst of where this kind of thing happens, how is an employee selected to come to a project in the construction industry? How does it happen if it's a union contract? Yeah.
Look at the books.
Excuse me?
Look at the books.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Look at the books, see who's up next.
You look at the books and see who's up next.
To get a union guy, they put it in their office in that town and then send someone else.
Yeah, you've got some kind of a union representative, okay, at the union hiring hall, right? And what is it that union representative's job? When contractor XYZ calls to get people to a project, who does he call? The union rep, right? Okay, and that union rep then does what? What?
Sends people to work.
Yeah, he picks the people out of the union to send to the project site. Okay? So if you're a union guy, you want to get chosen to go to the site. Now, a contractor can request specific people out of the union hall, right? And sometimes he can get those people. And there can be a deal where, we get the people we want, struck between the contractor and the union. Okay? But there is some inherent loss of flexibility there, or management control over who gets sent to the job site. You're staffing up a project, okay, and you may not have a knowledge of all the people in the hall that are actually available to work, and so that union rep is selecting people to send to your job site. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of loyalty that begins to form between the individual and the union, as opposed to with management in the company itself. Unions back employees versus the management and increase the employee power, the loss of pay due to strikes, work stoppage, that sort of thing, and the loss of ability on the part of the contractor to actually control whether or not they're going to be able to meet commitments that they make to a client. Okay? Okay, decision to join a union, to obtain an instrument in opposition to management, usually those dissatisfied with work, wages, vote for union. Job security. You know, if this contractor, I mean, contractors go up and down a lot, don't they, in this industry? That is, one contractor gets the job, he hires the people, okay? When that job's over, he lays the people off. He doesn't have the work, right? Somebody else may get the next job. It may be 6 months before they pick up another job, okay? And so again, you know, this wanting to have a mechanism in there which, if management fails to produce because they can't or won't, then people become disposed, if you will, to hire or to pay into an investment on that job security by joining a union. And there are often family activities, union activities that are enjoyable for the union members to attend. They want to create a brother and sisterhood in that organization, don't they? The ability to exercise leadership that may not be afforded them outside of the union. Okay? Their own personal growth and development they may see as having more opportunity within the union than outside of it. And of course, as you saw in the video, social pressure. Okay? There may be some compulsory unionism, and we'll talk more about that today in Friday's lecture. Okay? And again, go on to websites. This website here, for example, the National Right to Work website. You can imagine what they're trying to promote. Okay? Some very excellent resources there for people that may be embroiled in the decision, do I join a union or do I strive to work outside of a union with some level of control by the union, or do I just go completely non-union? Or is there something else that we ought to be doing? Okay? And that's really what I want you to think about when you read some of the stuff that I've also put online for you. It's not just, do we continue doing what we're doing, or do we, you know, have a union, okay, or have to deal with a union? It may be we need to quit doing or start doing some different things in order to avoid this hassle in the first place. And it is a very time-consuming and expensive way to effectively manage people. That doesn't necessarily have to happen if we're willing to change the way that we manage things. Okay? Okay, so why employees fail to join a union? Anti-union attitudes that generally pervade industry and society. Okay? Your mother doesn't think it's a good idea, right? Okay? Social pressures, job satisfaction, fear of reprisal, the cost, union hostility, and there may be some conscientious objection to union behavior. Okay, what do we mean by conscientious objection? Yes?
Potentially, so I'm trying to think of it in two ways. I can't even say that word right. Conscientious objection to the idea that unions can represent and what they may, like people in that group may participate in, and you may ethically or morally feel against that, or like not obligated. You don't want to feel obligated to commit yourself to those activities or be part of that group and go into what they do. While another way I can think about this is people don't want to join the union because they participate in objecting to work at times. So I assume you were going with the first sentence where it was like they don't want to be a part of these activities ethically or morally, but also they might not want to join for the fact that they participate in objection of work and like they want to get a paycheck. They don't want to be standing there and work. So.
Okay, there's a lot of things that we can object to. We can object to it politically, we can object to it because we're not going to make it as much money or we don't have the flexibility. But conscience, okay, is something very specific, even defined at law presently, that has to do with what? Yes?
Morals?
Morals, okay? It is morals, okay? And it is actually, again, defined by law as religious morals. Okay, if you're going to object to something via your conscience, representative of that is your relationship with God or religion. Okay? Now you need to go into the website here that we've mentioned and read some of the materials that are mentioned there about what constitutes religious objection. Okay? Because you need to understand that. This is codified. It's also inherent in your responsibility as a manager and in your responsibility for the management of others, that you understand what conscientious objection means and the religious overtones of that and how people's belief in God governs or creates those moral obligations. Okay? And your legal responsibility relative to those moral obligations that are felt by others. Okay? So again, an excellent discussion that you need to deal with and understand, get in the middle of the messy situation there, and get comfortable with talking about the real issues that are involved in your society. Okay? All right. Okay, I'm going to leave that. I presume you can read, so I'm going to leave that to you. I can't really read it from here anyway. Okay, but I'm going to hold you responsible for it, so please go in and read it, okay? All right, construction industry union organization, okay? Here we have the building trades have typically organized top-down. That is, contractors are asked to sign a hire agreement to establish wages, hours, working conditions, etc. These agreements exist only in the construction industry. A union can picket a non-signatory contractor who's not paying union scale wages, for example. Or they may be bottom up because, and that's much more prevalent in the construction industry, meaning that, as we saw in the video, we have a union organizing operation that's going on from the grassroots or from the employees themselves that say, yes, we want to have a union vote. Okay? If you can get 30% of a group of employees to say yes, we want to have a union vote, they can request from the NLRB a vote. Okay? And they will come in and do that. Okay. Now, there is an option that a company just could capitulate, if you will, and recognize the union if the 30% have signed the card. But usually the usual state is that it's a wake-up call for management. They better deal with this, and that may involve some changes that they need to make in order to convince the people, no, you don't need a union, we'll deal with you better than a union will deal with you. Okay? But if they don't wake up and smell the roses, then it will continue until it goes through the full process. Okay? So, in the second case, the NLRB will schedule an election. They're going to determine what is the bargaining unit itself, that is, which group of employees are involved in this thing. Okay? And that is going to determine then who's eligible to vote. They're going to hold a secret ballot election. The majority wins, that if you get over 50%, then in each unit, there could be multiple units defined by the NLRB, okay? And anyway, if any unit wins over 50%, then the union is established, okay? And if people don't follow the rules, then that election can be redone, if you will, or the results of the previous one thrown out. Okay, so again, there's some do's and don'ts from the AGC guide on what you can say. You can say that the company is opposed to unionism and will allow all lawful means, or use all lawful means to protect itself and the rights of those employees not wanting to join a union. Okay? You can say there's a legal right not to join. You guys don't have to join the union. Okay? You could say there's a legal right to refrain from union activity, that the company is opposed to dealing with a third party for labor management relation issues, and always willing to discuss related problems. Okay? So come and talk to us. Don't go thinking about having to have a third party come in and talk to you. Okay? Well, if you're not really accessible or haven't been really accessible, right? If they don't feel like they can get redress of their grievances through you, then they may seek redress elsewhere, right? Okay, some more things you can say, which are disadvantages of working under a union agreement. There may be jurisdictional fights over work assignments. That is, who gets to do the work, and you may lose, and hence lose work to be done.